Joining us now is former Virginia Republican Senator and Governor George Allen. Good to see you, Governor, as always, and Senator.
Good morning.
Let's talk about Donald Trump, because the GOP in the state of Virginia has, is feeling his dislike. So Trump has scolded state officials for requiring Republican primary voters to call it what you want to, an oath, a statement of affiliation before they go to the polls. And he took to Twitter, as he often does, to go after the Republican Party of Virginia, calling it bad, saying the state, there have been statewide losses 7 times in a row. I wanted to get your reaction to this.
Well, my reaction is I've been nominated by convention, by primary, and so forth. And when I was in a primary race back in 2012, I said I didn't want any pledges in it. I think the Republicans in Virginia and elsewhere in the country, particularly in battleground states, and Virginia is one of them, should be making it easier for people who want to be interested in our candidates to listen to their ideas and their agenda, and make it easier rather than more difficult for them to participate. I remember when Barbara Comstock had what was called a firehouse primary just 2 years, a little less than 2 years ago, and people had to sign these pledges, and there were folks who were really grousing and complaining about having to sign a pledge. So in my view, and in my experience, I've always felt like this is unnecessary. In Virginia, you don't register by party. And
right.
So independents, Democrats, Republicans, but to have somebody say who's an independent, and there's a lot of independent-minded people in Virginia, as you know, Dagen, they don't like having to say this. So in my view, I think it's best let people vote. If they're a registered voter and they want to participate, let them, welcome them. We need to grow our party in Virginia.
So Trump is right. You agree with him. So why is the Republican Party in Virginia doing this then? Do they really not like Donald Trump and want to keep those independent voters? I know that this isn't legally binding, but nevertheless the concern is those people, those independents who like Trump, just won't vote in the primary.
Well, I think there are certain candidates who have, the way I look at it, that I could discern that they'd get people to join their campaign who are not necessarily ardent Republicans. I think Marco Rubio has that capability. Donald Trump does. Ben Carson to some extent as well. And so, again, in Virginia, there's more Democrats than Republicans, and no one really can win without the independents. But the Republicans need to get more independents to prevail over Democrats, particularly in a presidential year. And so I think they're worried that, Democrats are going to come in and vote, and they'll vote for the weaker Republican candidate, and that's always been a concern. But, that's only going to be a few thousand votes. Heck, in my primary in 2012, there were well over 200,000 people voting. So if you get a few hundred, 1,000 or so voting, my goodness, that's not going to change the difference. And they'll still get their email and mailing list because those who have voted in the primary are on the list. So I think that our party ought to be welcoming rather than trying to be exclusive.
Governor Scott Brown, first of all, it's good to
Senator.
see you. Nice to see you. So number one, what's the end game, and what do you actually think the turnout will be in Virginia? Is it going to be the numbers that you were talking about, the 200,000 plus, or you do see a much higher interest? And, I'm a little surprised. I agree with Donald Trump as well. I'm not quite sure why they're doing this, and will it in fact stand? Will the people tolerate it, or will they just say, I'm voting, you can't stop me, this isn't legally binding, go jump off a cliff type of thing?
Yeah, I think it'd probably be the latter for some people. Again, it's not binding. I think it's a minor irritant in the long run that people will say, there's Republicans, they want to be, they just want Republicans voting, even though you don't register by party. I think the turnout will be phenomenally high in Virginia in a presidential race. We have so many candidates running. Of course, by the time you get to Virginia, it'll be after New Hampshire and South Carolina and Iowa and Nevada. So I think it'll be a highly contested race in Virginia. The polls, the Christopher Newport University poll showed, all the key candidates, the top 5 candidates, I guess, in Virginia would be Rubio, Trump, Carson, Bush, and maybe somebody else will break, and Cruz, excuse me, and
Governor,
and Ted Cruz.
Have you endorsed anyone? Who are you leaning
No,
towards?
I have not endorsed anyone. I probably will make an endorsement sometime next month. I'm looking at candidates as far as their demeanor, their agenda, what ideas are they advancing that will improve opportunities for all Americans, and that's tax reform, regulatory reform, productive energy policy, and recognizing we need a strong leader, because we've seen in the last 7 years when America has a weak president, it makes America less safe. And so I'm looking at the candidate who can win, who's conservative, who has ideas that will motivate and inspire people for ideas rather than what we're against.
Do you want to give me their initials? Just
No, I'd like to, Dagen, but I think others are listening.
Oh, okay.
We're mostly happy here about the Redskins making the playoffs.
Thank you.
To switch subjects.
That's okay. We've talked about the Eagles an awful lot, and Chip Kelly getting the boot.
As far as the Redskins are concerned, we're really glad that Coach Kelly cut Deshaun Jackson and the Redskins got him for nothing, and he's doing great.
Politics and sports, my two favorite subjects. Thank you so much. And dogs. Governor and former Senator of Virginia, George Allen, take care of yourself. Thank you for being here.
Y'all do the same. Have a winning new year.
You too. Happy New Year.